salute flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any additions or corrections?
Nothing.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there.
Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes from last week?
Motion to approve the minutes from last week?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we're going to start with the public comment period. I do have to make a reminder that there can be no personal attacks and no talking on anything under litigation. And we actually welcome new information, so. Come right up, Barb.
Oh, come on.
And then introduce yourself and where you're from.
No,
Right here, right? There's a mic there.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I talk loud. Good morning. For the record, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm Barb Beeson. I've been from Hoka all my life, and I want to address the historic jail. Now, in 2005, the renovation of Hoka City Hall started, and since then, I've attended conferences in Fergus Falls, Faribault, Lanesboro, Winona, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and I've toured historic sites all over the state of Minnesota. And some of the buildings I've toured are mothballed for up to 20, 30 years. Some have new tenants and new uses, while others are still being used as originally built. And one of those is right here in Houston County. And I'll email each of you samples, both Metro and Outstate, later this week. But I believe in the importance of exposing students to history, and the history of the buildings, but not only the buildings, but how and why they were built. That's why in Hoka with the WPA building, we emphasize the Great Depression. We've had programs on that. And at least, please consider mothballing the jail till courthouse renovations are done. And do some county space needs, do some tours, make them available. We're still waiting on EDA to get in to tour the building. And get some input from residents. And many buildings around the state were mothballed for years before that use was found in the developer. And I understand a lot of taxpayers are concerned with the cost of renovation. And other residents appreciate history, and others see the bigger picture of economic development. And in fact, I first toured, and the one that's still being used as is, I first toured Chet's Mill when I went to the Winona Historic Preservation Conference. And we didn't spend any money in Houston County because we didn't have time, but we were on a ready coach. It was a local driver, and is it Ed Krugmeyer that owns it? He was well compensated by the conference for our visit there. And he didn't really have anything to sell. He gave us cornmeal or whatever. But we also stopped at Pickwick, and they had a gift shop, and we spent a lot of money there. And so one of my ideas, pending EDA and your approval, would be to have a survey concerning the jail at the EDA fair booth this summer. And we could, draft it at the EDA meetings. And I'd also be willing to serve on a committee involving the jail. I'm stretched pretty thin, but I'd make time because it's important. And I thank you for your time. Julie?
I'm Janine Hush, and I'm just a local county citizen. And for the past 2 months, I've been doing a history of the jail. And this, of course, was before the water. And in our search for the history, there's never been a total history done on the Houston County Jail. We have found some very interesting stories, and found out that the first jail probably was down on South Pine Street, because the home has bars on the windows. So we've really done a lot of research, and Angela Murphy's been helping me with this. So we would really, really like for you to consider all the options in this matter. And I will continue to put this history together. And there's many people that have lived in the jail and have lots of interesting stories. So please consider all the options for this.
Thank you.
I just want to introduce myself. I'm Dan McGonigal, the new general manager at the Argus, for those of Steve mainly that I haven't met.
Okay, how do you do?
Welcome. Any other public comments before we move on to our agenda?
My name is Steve Hardwick. I've been a Money Creek resident for 38 years. I occasionally come to these meetings and noticed how much they've devolved into mutual name calling, and I think this is the result of a diminishment of respect. And I think the cause of this is the frustration involved with the type of dialogue that we're having. On one side, you have people who are limited to 2-minute comments, and on the other side is the board, who are not allowed to have a response to these comments. So there is no give and take. And so I think probably a remedy for this is to schedule some kind of extended forum so that there can be this dialogue go on. Joseph Joubert said, "It's better to debate a question without settling it than to settle a question without debate." Some mistakes have been made. That's part of human nature. Mistakes happen. And I think what we need to do is get beyond these mistakes and do what's right going forward. In 1992 or 93 or even in 2008, people weren't that aware of what silica dust and silicosis were. And maybe we should reform the way we do business to protect our residents' health and safety, starting now and going forward. The third thing I'd like to talk about is the frac sand study committee reports, the committee reports. It kind of reminds me of when I talk to my grandkids about what happened in school today, and it's always, oh, you know, it's good, or they're working hard. We don't really get reports. I realize that there's no resolutions being arrived at, but nonetheless, I think you could give us some details on the topics that are being discussed and what the parameters are of what's being discussed. Thank you.
Anyone else that wishes to address the board? All right, Tessa, I believe you're up next.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm not sure what folks have received. I believe you all have a copy of the attachment. You're welcome. At this time, I'm not sure if anyone's in the sheriff's offices. Oh, there you go. We recognize you. And if you'd like to come forward, please.
Sure.
We conducted interviews for the lead jailer last week. We had spent quite a bit of time on this. We had some very detailed interviews and conversations thereafter. And it's at this time we would like to hire Matt Mackey as a full-time probationary lead, which is a B322 at an hourly rate of $25.82 effective June 15th, 2014. We had a total of 5 applicants that we interviewed. The interview team was the sheriff, the chief deputy, and one of the senior lead that's involved in training, as well as the jail administrator and myself. So we were came at the issue with a lot of varied perspectives. So, do you have any comments about it?
Nope.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to respectfully request that the board extends a probationary lead jailer offer to Matt Mackey. I don't believe he has to go through any further background checks, so it doesn't have to be conditional. It'll just be probationary.
Okay, I move to approve.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's right.
Okay, and let's see with Mary. Good morning, Mary.
Mary. That's for Linda.
Oh, okay.
I'm just a messenger.
You're the messenger. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. At this time, we're recommending that the board grant Laura O'Haron a 7 weeks unpaid leave between the months of June through August. This is an employee request, and it's a leave that she is both contractually and otherwise legally entitled to, and so we request that. I attached a copy of the county's unpaid leave of absence policy, and I don't have too many other comments. You have staffing already arranged in place to cover the leave.
I guess I don't have a problem with it. I move to approve.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's your exercise.
Thank you.
And I'd like to do just a very quick historical jail update, and appreciate hearing the comments that I heard this morning. Just to give you a little bit of an update, I did talk with Jerry Connery, NCIT insurance representative. I shouldn't say spoke with him. We had email exchanges this week. He said that Steve Volt and Kurt, I don't have Kurt's last name, they're the engineers that are on site that came back, that they should have a report to him. He thought very shortly within this week, sometime. Additionally, the contractor that has that has coordinating on subcontractors' work in quotes and for the quotes, also has told Jerry that we'll have those numbers sometime this week. Pathfinders, who is doing the historical structure report, sent us an email with a kind of a preliminary report of sorts. It's their monthly update, and stated that they had about 20 hours, anywhere between 20 and 40 hours work left on that. So we should have that any time now, so it's all going to come together very quickly. We do have, I believe Rick was, Rick could probably better speak to this, heard that there is a July 11th deadline for the next first round of capital improvement grants. I believe that would be for, after hearing Mr. Herskovitz speak, that would be for a draft application that they would review for us and approve. Otherwise, we believe there's another deadline in October for that work. But depending upon if we can get this all together, it is possible that we can have, we were talking earlier, have some kind of preliminary grant application, and should the board determine that it wants to go that route. The Pathfinders report will have a substantial historic perspective, and from what I've seen, it's rather detailed on the history of the building, the how, who and how and when, and all of those things, the various features. So that will be included in it as well. And I understand, Shar, that you were able to share some materials that you found in one of the vaults with them, and I greatly appreciate that. Other than that, I don't have any other reports this morning unless you have questions.
So would it be possible for us to plan on that report next week?
You know, I cannot tell you.
I would really like us to be able to have the people who are doing the report here so we could ask questions. Is that?
As soon as they finish their work, that's always been my plan, is to have a panel here to present their work and to discuss it with you. And I'm not sure which report you're talking about, the engineers and contractors report, I assume?
Any of them. I mean, we just.
And Pathfinders would present their report as well. That would probably be separately. But I can't not say exactly the date that they will have that to us. They say this week or next week. It wouldn't be ready for presentation next week. It would be at best
Just
to
so
get it
that
on
we
the
can
agenda
block
for the
out a
following
part
week.
on our agenda. You know, that if it's not ready this week, then the next week. But I think that we should prioritize it getting on our agenda and not having a 2-week wait to get it.
Well, certainly we have to give these people their calendars.
Right.
So,
But I mean, so that we're not delaying the process by our getting on the agenda is what I'm saying. As soon as they're ready, we want them on
I
the
think we
agenda.
need time to read the reports and understand it before we, I would hate to get the report and then have to ask the questions without reading it.
I think Tess is going to give us a report when she receives it.
As soon as I do,
But
and I
we
have,
also need them here to ask questions about it afterwards.
Yep.
and we had them scheduled once, and as I previously said in the last couple of meetings, I will, as soon as they have something, they know we would like to have them here to answer your questions and to explain to you what's in their reports and what they're willing to do and not willing to do in the case of MCIT and for Pathfinders as far as all their various findings.
As far as
And
work
I
being,
agree with you, Commissioner Stoll.
as far as work being done at the building, that's pretty much done? Inspections and
We
any kind
are-
of work? Or-
Well, there aren't any inspections from the perspective of the engineer piece.
Yeah.
And the contractors, I understand, have done that. If we're expecting their numbers any time now, and they must have gone through it as well. We were not given I don't know the date they went out there. And we continue to have fans on and trying to keep the building in as best shape as we can. I understand EDA is scheduled to go through the building on an EDA tour on July 2nd. So it'd be nice to have these reports in well before that. It is, Jerry said this was a massive undertaking, that their work is timely. I think to quote him in his email, he says the size of the loss and damage was significant and there was multiple factors involved that we may not have anticipated up front that they ended up facing. So, but now it appears they have all the information. They're just trying to get the final things put together.
That settled it, I guess.
I don't believe anybody's been setting on it on their end or the contractors' end as well.
Would the building, is the building safe to go into, inspect?
To tour, if you
Yeah.
walk cautiously, yes.
Cautious.
We've had some people, because it was taken down to the subflooring, of course, there are, where they've drilled holes in the subflooring and to run pipes, and those pipes have subsequently been removed. But it is sturdy, it's very solid. You just watch where you walk. And it's very clean, so there isn't litter or nails or anything laying around to harm people.
That's nice.
Well, there was for a while.
Before you go, Tess, because we moved your jail and courthouse discussion up with your report, does Rick have anything that you want to add at this time? Okay. We used to have a separate agenda item. Also, Jeannie should be part of that tour, I would think, as far as...
I've been invited.
Oh, good. Okay.
Thank you.
And anybody else that you can think of that, has a historical interest in it?
Or to develop it.
Or anybody who wants to, develop it. So, good way to put it too. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Carol, do you have a finance report for us this morning?
There really isn't a lot to report now that we're in May, just waiting for June financials so that we can begin budgeting. The May report, I think probably the most interesting thing to look, starting on page 9, you can scroll through each of the departments and you can see that the expenditures are pretty much in line with the percentage of the year for spending. If you get to page 15, then you can see the grand totals of all the major funds, where our expenditures are at 31% of the total, but the revenues are only at 18%, which, because we don't have our tax settlement, which are processed the other day, and we will have in our financials for June. So really what we want to do is look forward to the budgeting process. And I will attempt to get the reports out, the June reports out within the first week of July. So you would need to find, I would also, for the finance meeting in July, Donna will be presenting the cash and investment summaries. She's been kind of tied up, so we will do that. Then also, and you'll be getting the report that shows each of the departments and all the line items, and if there is any department in particular that you would like to confer with, you can let me know and I can set up for them to be at the finance meeting. I'll also let them know that you will be reviewing it, and if they just want to be here, that'll be fine, but also to be available if you have specific questions.
Extension was asking when they're going to, we would be calling them because they do want the regional director here. So we need to let them know.
Well, that will just be for the first 6 months reports. If
Right.
you have questions on that, we can let them know.
But when we set up budget meetings,
But when we set up budget meetings, so
in the end of July or?
budget worksheets will also go out like as soon as the July financials are done. So budget request forms will go out to the departments. They'll have probably a couple of weeks to return them, and typically it's like the first week in August that we start the budget meetings with the departments.
We also got notice at the district meeting that September 30th is when we have to have the preliminary levy in. Did you get notice on that too?
I didn't, but
Okay. And is that a new date?
it was the.
It seems like it was moved.
I thought it was earlier. It was the 15th.
Okay, well, they mentioned September 30th to us yesterday. But we better double check so we're not.
And that's what we use for the truth in taxation notices and information for our truth in taxation hearing. So, that's where
Any
we're
red
at.
flags at all?
No, there isn't. Like I said, if you scroll down through, I think IT is at 51% of their budget because they do a lot of their spending. Salaries, some of them are a little over, and that's because we still haven't evened out with the extra pay period. There's 13 pay periods and 13 pay periods, and it causes a little bit of a flux when you're looking at the reporting because the budget is split by the month, and we have an extra pay period. So, it all.
Can I come down and ask a question? I should have asked you before the meeting, but I just.
And I did correct the spelling on extension, and I will also add that I did not put that in there, that spending there.
Okay.
First period.
I didn't think so, but they went over their whole budget last night, preliminary approved extension budget, so she spelled extension. Oh, that was good.
I think that's it. Because I talked to Julie before when she was told me that they were looking at the different areas, and I pretty much suggested you put it in one place. But it was like, we could just do it in 2 pages.
All right, so it wasn't. Okay, thank you.
Certified proposed levy. September 30th. September 30th is when I have school.
See, Carol, you can tell I read this because I seem to come up with questions.
Yes, that's good, and that's why we give them to you to
Yes.
I like them in advance like that.
The purpose from the, state auditor's recommendations is that you review and approve everything.
And you said the state auditor, or somebody's here this,
There are actually 3 people from the state auditor's office here today. One is out at Public Health, completing their departmental audit. One is at the Highway Department to work on our single audit requirements for the 2013 audit. And Nancy is here. She is doing, she calls employees for fraud interviews. Okay, no anything, it's just a standard.
that's done every year?
Every year.
Okay.
She gets a telephone listing and have at it. So, any questions?
Thank
No,
you.
it looked good. It's always nice to see it looking so good.
It seems to be doing good.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have the correspondence from SEMCAC. Need a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unfinished business, Fraxan issue updates. I don't think we have anything right at this moment because we don't have a meeting for another week. Highway Department, Steve?
Yeah, Brian's setting up a meeting with HSR. We haven't got a date quite figured out yet.
And I think we already covered the courthouse historic jail issues. So moving on to commissioner reports, Dana?
Yeah, on Wednesday I attended the EDA meeting. Good stuff going on there, and I'm sure Judy would keep better notes in there. Thursday I went to a water planning meeting. It was a good meeting also. Everybody's doing good work. And that's it for me.
And I just had a SIMCAC board meeting last night.
Anything new there?
Not really so much. They have a new brochure that I gave everyone, to everyone here. Hanging out. Always looking for money, looking for donations if possible from anyone, and always looking for grants. They do a lot of good work.
Usually I write stuff down so I know what I'm going to say. I'm trying to think of what we went over at the EDA. We talked a lot about looking into the things going on at the jail. Barb, do you remember what else we talked about?
The fair display.
Oh, the fair display, yep, and how it's going to be organized this year, and how every community Barb's so organized, she's got every community getting like the board you put out for science fair projects. Poster boards that everybody will do displays for their community on, which will be really good. And we're going to have a door prize again this year at the fair. And I think that was about all I can remember.
The press thing, not just an update.
Oh, and who did we have come in and talk again?
Trails development?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of trails.
Yeah,
Chris and
Dot's
Right,
there.
okay. It's been a lot of meetings ago. Yeah, and that was really interesting, getting into the trails development and what parts they're going to work together, how it's all going to come together, but we're going to try and do more planning as a group, correct? And then yesterday was the District 9 AMC meeting, and it was super, super interesting. There was just a lot. MCI talked about different legislation going through, and about workers' compensation and the DPA stuff going on. And we also learned about, one thing we talked about was the waters of the United States. And I found this really interesting. AMC put out a request for comments late April, early May, and comments are still welcome. A draft letter will be presented to the AMC Board of Directors this week for feedback. AMC's letter will be sent to the EPA once approved and shared with AMC members. Counties are encouraged to send individual communications and comments to EPA. Lake County Commissioner Rich Sieve and other county reps testified before the EPA Secretary in St. Paul last week. And if they go ahead with having all the waters in the United States governed by the Corps of Engineers, the Corps of Engineers will have the governing stuff over 80% of the land in the United States, which was huge when you look at it. One thing, the Corps of Engineers having that kind of control, AMC's not supporting it because they feel there should be more local put into it. They're looking into broadband and getting a subcommittee on that. They talked about upcoming trainings coming up, and they talked about trafficking, the sex trafficking going on, and it was just really interesting, the amount of prostitution going on in Minnesota, and how it's time to take a stand, and how it's more in the smaller communities and like hunting areas where people go hunting and have different kinds of retreats and stuff, that you don't think about the prostitution, and that they're targeting underage girls for prostitution. They talked a lot about the Human Services Performance Management System, which was really interesting, and they gave a web page that we can go to and learn all about how their budget is put together. And they're talking about the people who aren't, who they don't have the numbers on, like the people who are economically secure, and children that have the opportunity to develop to their fullest potential. We just haven't focused on those areas like it should be, and that's something they're going to address. They just talked about the current performance measures and which ones that they'll be going with. There's a huge study being done on it. And then we went over how the legislative stuff came out for our committees, and they also asked us to review our committee list, and if we haven't sent different names in, you'll stay on the same committee, so who's ever general government would stay there. And there's also a conflict in training dates they're going to be looking at, because there's a training in, there's a policy meeting in September for all the different legislative things. Legislative policies are in September at Arrowwood for 2 days, but then at the same time that that's going on, there's also the MCI, what do you call it? It's a training, risk management training is at the same time. So they're going to see if they can change that, or else we need to make sure that we have people going both ways.
Right.
Because both of these trainings are excellent. You get a lot of stuff from them. And then they went on to talk a lot about lean training, and then they listed what's been done in different counties, which programs they took on, and how they'll support us coming in and doing lean training, and just different counties who have who've done things. Like one county took on increased customer satisfaction of the sewer permitting process by designing a standard sewer permitting process. You know, just things like that, they've been looking all over the state at how different processes are done inside of your courthouse, and how you can get it to smooth flow, or to have a smooth flow that the public can understand easy to, and the people who work there. So a lot of lean training is smooth process. And they said, you know, to make sure that people don't think lean and we're cutting staff, because cutting staff is not part of lean training. So that was really interesting also. And I don't know if anybody from our county went to the leadership training that was in Mankato. They said 250 AMC members attended it, and this was, what were their names again? We saw at an AMC conference
The leadership one in January.
Right, and they offered it out throughout Minnesota, and I never did hear if anybody from our county had attended it, but it's just stuff like that we're going to try and promote more of getting into the regions so that more people can get to the training instead of having to travel so far. The policy committee meeting is September 3rd and 4th, and the AMC annual conference is December 8th and 9th. And then they also said, they do the newly elected officials training. I remember when Dana and I went to it. And they also offered that anyone can go to it. That they said they want to open the doors to more commissioners coming for that training because they do it right away the first year. And you get all this stuff, but you haven't been thrown into the whole thing of it. So they welcomed any of us who wanted to come back for the training. So I think that that's really a good thing for us to look at as a board also. And I think I kind of covered it. It was so interesting, and it was so good to go to, and you just learn so much, and you meet other people from other counties. And if anybody is interested, we brought back Why Minnesota Counties Matter and put some of them in the back, because it really tells what counties do, and what you can do is you work with other counties and the pull that you can have together. So it's all good.
At your last meeting?
Yeah, I went to city council last night, but it wasn't very exciting. It was just the same stuff. And yeah, I think that was it. That meeting was so good yesterday.
Well, I went to the very same one Judy did, but she gave a very thorough report. And it was nice to see it's 11 counties in southeast Minnesota, and everyone was there. Everybody was represented. So that was kind of good because a lot of it ends up being talking to other counties and how they're handling their situations, and you get good advice from other seasoned commissioners. So that was good, but it was kind of good to see everybody there. I had a solid waste policy board meeting last Wednesday, which is really exciting. But actually, they do such a wonderful job, and they have a very large budget, La Crosse County does, which we're part of course. And their annual meeting is June 27th, 9 o'clock in the morning, but you will be getting information as to it. They're even going to have tours of the landfill and anything more.
They have a good annual meeting too.
Yeah, they do. They have a very good one.
They really do.
On the subject of solid waste, Carter sent out something that we're all invited to. Did you guys all get this?
Yeah, the card.
Yeah, that they're doing their big grand opening of all their stuff, June 17th.
That's because La Crosse County and Onalaska, La Crosse City and Onalaska City have gone to single stream recycling, and they have to have special equipment then to actually sort all this stuff. But evidently they've doubled their recycling since January. People are really recycling twice as much as they ever did.
Because they don't have to sort it.
They don't have to sort it. It's really amazing. We got a whole fact sheet on how much it's increased. So, and then I did have extension meeting last night, which is always a good meeting, that 4-H. We have a very good 4-H director. David's doing a very good job. They did pick the farm family for Houston County, which they're looking at other avenues of agriculture, and they actually picked the Van Linn Orchard, which is an apple orchard in the egg area. So they'll be honored at both the Farm Fest and at the fair. So that's kind of I thought that was a real interesting way to look at it, rather than always a dairy farm or a swine or whatever. And they worked on their budget last night, so they're ready for us when they come. So those were my 3 main meetings that I had last week. Any other business you want to bring up on your commissioner report?
Nothing here.
Approved claims?
Make a motion to approve claims, human services, and license center disbursements.
I'll second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then we need to set a time and date for the public hearing on updating zoning ordinance. Oh, yes, I
That's a
did
meeting.
attend that
That's
meeting
the meeting
too.
I was at. You were there one more.
Yeah, and that was very
was
good. There's
Thursday
been
night.
a
Oh,
lot,
yeah, I was there too.
lot of work that went into updating a portion of the zoning ordinance. I was very impressed with it. Anyway, we need to set the time and date for it, and Shar did have a suggestion for that.
I have to advertise it for 10 days before, or it has to be advertised and then wait 10 days before we can have a hearing. So the first date we could do is July 1st, and I'm proposing 10 a.m. if that's okay with you. During a regular meeting.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. I'll get it in the paper.
You need a motion for that?
Oh, consensus is fine.
Okay.
Did we cover it before?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Just a second, one question.
When will the text of the updated ordinance be available to the public?
Do you know, Dana? We'll check on it and,
Thank you.
Bob's working on it.
yeah, with the
We
corrections
made
she
a few
said.
changes that night. so.
Yeah.
I did ask Bob to give me a copy so I have it available if people request it.
Could you
So
post it on the website?
I can check and see if I can.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very well done. Doesn't cover everything yet. He has to meet with all the townships before they move on to the
No.
next area.
That's on the next, this is, we're going to approve the ones we went through Thursday.
Okay.
The one of the townships is, that's
Will be
going to
next fall.
that's going to take a long time to do.
Great.
And that's going to go on all summer. I mean, we'll probably be doing that part in November.
Okay,
We're just going to go through what you saw on that.
yeah, right. Sounds good. Yeah, we'll get it on the website or let you know when it's available. Good, thank you. All in favor of
What's
adjourning?
it?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.